it's Erin Sweeney here with the Hart Leadership Program. I'm here to introduce you to Duke alumnus Kate Mitchell-Tombras, who graduated in 2004 and now works at the Department of Justice in the Antitrust Division. Kate is really special to the Hart Leadership Program because she completed 2 of our programs. She did a Soul Summer in South Africa and then a Hart Fellowship in Tanzania. I was really interested in learning more about Kate's experience in Tanzania and how her experience working with a women's legal aid organization eventually solidified her decision to go to law school. She went to Georgetown Law, she was a global law scholar there, and like I said, is now working at the Department of Justice. So stay tuned because Kate has a lot of really interesting advice for students who are possibly considering going to law school or working for the federal government.
My Hart Fellowship was in Tanzania, in a town called Moshi, and that's where I spent my year. My year as a Hart Fellow can't be overstated in terms of learning who I am, who I wanted to be, what is most important to me, and how I wanted to live my life. In 3 different ways, really. So both professionally, working with such incredible women and men in Tanzania who were living lives of purpose, taught me so much every day. On a personal level, the people that I met, both, there were a lot of Duke doctors that were over there, there were other folks from other countries making a difference, as well as many, many Tanzanians every day, seeing how they lived their lives, even in social settings and Bible studies and different things that were part of my life while I was there. And then also just on a very kind of gritty toughness level, I was challenged just sort of physically in terms of material comforts in a way that I never had been before in my life. And it really taught me how tough I am and what things you really need to have a fulfilling life and what things that you don't. So it was an incredibly informative year and has shaped everything I've done since.
When you were at Duke, did you feel like there was a lot of emphasis on working in the public sector or working for the government? Did you have any idea that you were going to sort of end up working for the Justice Department and more? Yeah,
that's an interesting question and one I've thought about before. You just sort of, how did I end up where I am and why did I always feel like public service was where I wanted to be? And I wonder, I don't know the answer, I wonder how much of it is what you grew up with. So I remember, when I was at Duke, it seemed like, everyone, but of course wasn't everyone, went and did banking in New York after we graduated. And I remember I didn't even really know what that was because I grew up in India. We didn't have bankers in my town. I didn't have a concept of that, but I had 2 parents who always told me that there was nothing more honorable than serving your country. And so I don't know if because that was the refrain I heard growing up, when I came to Duke, it was just, instinct. It wasn't really even conscious how I just naturally gravitated toward public policy and toward people who were like-minded in a way that maybe if I had grown up in, a bigger city or something where other opportunities were emphasized, maybe I wouldn't have gravitated naturally to those places. So I don't know, but I definitely think once I got to Duke, those were certainly the people that I surrounded myself with, both at, Stanford, as well as just socially and the kinds of people that I made friends with. Most of my friends are doing work where they're serving others, now. I came to Duke in the early 2000s and was sort of part of that generation who had volunteered growing up. That was part of what, you did as a high school student and, had that background. And when I came to Duke, so that was something I brought with me to Duke, but transitioning that to an understanding of social justice, not just sort of volunteering and what that meant. And that's really what the Hart Leadership Program, what Soul and the Hart Fellowship Program, really did for me is give me that academic, that sort of intellectual approach and background and language to talk about how to commit yourself to making a difference in the world in a way that is respectful of everyone that you interact with when in your professional setting.
So why did you decide to go to law school after you finished your Hart Fellowship?
So the Hart Fellowship, my Hart Fellowship was at a legal aid organization in Tanzania. And I was someone who probably my whole life thought that law school was in the future, but didn't really know what that meant. So for me, my year as a Hart Fellow working at a legal aid organization that focused on women's rights and children's rights, just solidified for me that law was the next step for me, and that law really could be used as an instrument to do great things and to make the world a tiny bit better than when you started. So that's what it did for me. So when I came back, I knew I wanted to apply to law school and continue to pursue the law. I loved law school. I thought it's like anything else. I think Duke prepared me really well for this. It's what you make it. I mean, you can go through law school and check off boxes and take just the courses that are sort of in the canon or whatever, sort of usual suspects. Or you can do other things. You can go out of your way to take the courses that mean a lot to you, like international law and things like that, and find mentors and find people in the field where you want to be, and make the most of it. And I like to think that I did. I was a global law scholar at Georgetown, and I really believe that it was my experience as a Hart Fellow that made me competitive for that program. And so there were a cohort of us, and we took courses together, and we worked with students from law schools around the world on a project dealing with migrants' rights and other ways that we focused on making sure we could have a transnational practice when we graduated. So I've worked for the United States Department of Justice for about 3 years now, and our focus is the American people, but we deal with corporations every day who serve the entire world, who are global and international, multinational corporations. And so I love what I do, and still feel like I bring that interest and concern for how things affect all people, I guess. Delete that. One thing that I love is that when you're an attorney, you represent your client and you do what's best for your client. And for us, that's the American people. But also, our job is to do justice. It's not necessarily to win. And so we're supposed to do what's right, what's just. And I love that is what we are asked to do every day.
Do you think that there's like an authentic social justice community in DC?
That's an interesting question. I absolutely think that DC self-selects for young people who really want to do good, for lack of a better phrase, who want to make a difference, who believe they have a responsibility to the community, to their country, to the world, to act with integrity, to be concerned about the welfare of all people, and that's one of the things I love about DC. But DC is also Washington, in the in the pejorative sense that often means, and so that's also a real part of this place, is sort of the power, the money, the influence, and working with integrity and remembering why you came and what you're about is certainly something that people need to be conscious of as they go about what they do each day.
If you could envision yourself going global again, in what capacity do you think it would be, and where?
So one thing that I don't do currently in my work now that is a real passion, at least don't do specifically in my work now, that's a real passion, is women's rights work, and especially women's rights in the global south, but women's rights everywhere, particularly economic, social, and political rights. And so I can certainly see myself someday making a transition where that's what I think about most minutes of my professional life. But not today. I'm very happy with what I do right now.